Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around we are playing as the High Elves against the Vampire Counts on the map Oasis of False Hope, and this is a pretty fun one I think, so I definitely hope you guys enjoy it. Regardless, hopping right into the composition, as you can see, pretty defensive and infantry heavy. I do think that one of the things that you can do with High Elves against the undead is just go very heavy with infantry, go with elite troops, and just try to crush your opponent with sort of quality over quantity. And for my composition here, for my lord, I decided to bring Techless. Other compositions, you can just bring heavy infantry and then bring, say, an air corps with a bunch of star dragons and, say, a mage of high magic. But in this situation, I decided to bring Techless. I do think he's probably the more competitive lord in most matchups, even despite Alariel being implemented. I still think he's very good. I did bring the Boundfire Convocation, Potion of Troy, Regrowth, Enfeebling Foe, Flaming Sword of Ruin. This is my only source of magic damage, and it's absolutely crucial. Undead can bring some nasty sources with Karen Wraith, they can bring Hex Wraiths, absolutely brutal units there, and you need some source of magic damage. Either Sister of Avalorn, or bring Techless with Flaming Sword of Ruin, I think maybe, or a caster with some sort of magic damage, but you need something to deal with them. Then we do have Net of Mintok to shut enemies down, Greater Arcane Conduit, Shield of Sapphire, Wild Heart, as well as Kindle Flame. So a whole plethora sort of abilities here, most of his spells, basically looking to be flexible and be ready to adjust to whatever my opponent might bring. Regrowth, of course, to counter Fate of Buna, that sort of stuff. Most of that other stuff for Lord Sniping or helping snipe out specific targets. Two Nobles, providing an anti-large contingent, and really my only major anti-large contingent in this army. They've got AP, they've got great melee defense, decent enough melee attack. It's 44, but I think it's, if we check, got a bonus for large of 35, so they're almost up to 80 melee attack. Against large, armor of 100, decent HP, they're just a solid all-around unit. Front line, mix of White Lines of Trace as well as two Swordmaster of Hoeth. These guys were newly made cheaper, 50 gold cheaper to be exact. They're really strong in this matchup, in my opinion. Grand Fate of Buna does a number on them. Heavy Cav will trash them, and that might sound pretty bad, but they do make it so that you can win the front line decisively, not worry about it too much, and just dumpster cheap chaff skeletons, those sorts of units. Otherwise, White Lines of Grace just providing a little bit of fleshing out and making that front line wider, inflating the numbers, and they'll still be able to deal with Graveguard and units like that. Behind that, two units of Spears providing a little bit of anti-large. In the very back, the Keepers of the Flame, Regiment of Renown, Phoenix Guard. Of course, these guys are anti-large. They've got monstrous stats, 65 melee defense with martial mastery. They do magic damage. I actually forgot about these guys. This is another source of magic damage. Actually unintentional. I hadn't actually thought about this going into this match. My main concern was that these guys would give me a hefty anti-large source, and probably be decent against chaff with their sort of fiery explosion. Two archers with light armor who are immediately teeing off on the Fellbats because I really wanted to get rid of them before my opponent started dumpstering my backline. These guys were here to counter units like the Corpse Guard. As you can see, my opponent's build here, really pretty well-rounded in my opinion. In the backline, he does have the Dire Pack as well as the Chillgeist. One of the, in my opinion, one of the best combos in the game potentially. Chillgeist, of course, do have the slow aura, so if you're trying to hunt skirmishers and units like that, you can really shut them down with the Chillgeist and Dire Pack and just slaughter them. Especially the cheaper high elf large units like Illyrian Reavers or even Dragon Princes and units like that. You can do a number on them. In the first backline, you can see my opponent did have the two Fellbats. He does have the Red Duke up in the sky, who did bring the Wind of Death here. Or no, never mind, just Curse of Years, Raised Dead, and Invocation of Nehek. Of course, Pestilential Breath, the Hunger, Self-Thief, and Foe Seeker. So, usual assortment. This front line is pretty cheap. Some zombies, Königstein Stalkers, what I like to call the Poor Man's Graveguard. They're not bad. They do poison. They're pretty tanky. Two Graveguard, Sternsmen, some Skeleton Spears in the back, as well as two Corpse Guards with Unholy Lodestones. And because my opponent's being very good about shutting down my archers, I'm not really going to be able to deal with these guys. So they're going to keep providing that heal effect to all units in the front line, as well as Vigor Mortis for +5 melee attack and melee defense. Finally, a Banshee over here, who is actually pretty strong against High Elves. Once again, she does provide magic damage, she does provide fear, terror, and she does have Slippery, so she's pretty good, and she can even snipe out lords. Now my opponent, though, makes a big mistake here. He commits this Chillgeist, perhaps thinking I was going to be really vulnerable, but I immediately pop Flaming Sword of Ruin, actually Overcast variant, and I'm actually not going to let these guys escape. You can see they almost make it out. They're down to 24 models, but they've been hit with the heck, but I actually net them down, and now the archers are going to unload. And the archers, because these guys have no armor, and these guys are being boosted up, roided up by Flaming Sword of Ruin, they're just going to annihilate these poor buggers. These poor Chillgeist just never stood a chance. You can see all those poor ghosts just toppling to the ground, dead. In the back line, the archers are being routed off. Keepers of the Flame here doing a pretty good job. They actually lost 2 models, but somewhere in there, probably to the dragon. But you know, they scared him off, and in the frontline fight, in the meantime, has sort of initiated. I did try to get the Corpse Cart with Techless and the squad here, but my opponent hits me with Elves, and it's just not happening, so I'm going to be forced to retreat. I did try to cast a Fiery Convocation, and it gets interrupted. Not entirely sure by what, but the end result is that I'm not able to cast it. It refuses to go off, and this is the second time I've had this bug, so I'm not entirely sure why. The Felbats here are getting chopped up by White Lions. Over here, the Dire Pack does get in on the archers, and you can see my Phoenix Guard there trying to shut them down. Too little too late. These archers are going to help a little bit, though. But, you know, we're slowly but surely mopping up this backline. But my opponent countering it back pretty cleverly here with the Curse of Years, debuffing my attack, drawing out my cast time, and shortly you're actually going to see my messed up Convocation that just goes off at a really odd angle. Now, all over, you can see over here that Swordmaster of Hoth actually took a pounding from the Sternsman. I'm not entirely sure why, or if there was a breath attack, probably because there were zombies in the mix and diluting these guys' attack power, but these guys are going to get dove upon, and they're actually going to lose their martial mastery, which is going to make these guys fall apart very, very quickly. They are going to actually route to Terror there, but fortunately the rest of the High Elf line holding okay. You can see the White Lions here dumpstering the Graveguard, the Spearmen helping deal with the Skeleton Spears, sort of just inundating and holding there. But my opponent is very good about his zombie summons, constantly summoning more and more and more, and just drowning my front line in numbers. Here Techless is not able to extricate himself, he just doesn't have the mass, the Banshee's jabbing him to death. Despite the best efforts to sort of get him out, force path him out, he's refusing. And you can see here the Fiery Convocation spazzing out. I was trying to get it to go off, get my charge back, anything, and it goes at an odd angle, and it's actually going to roast some of my Keepers of the Flame here. So a really crappy sort of cast, and honestly just because of a bug, which really tilted me a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. The Keepers of the Flame will get into the fight. They're going to start chopping up these Sternsmen, and doing a number on them. Elsewhere, my opponent does get a little bit, I think, greedy. Dives in with the Red Duke, trying to go after my my sort of hero core here. But rather than retreating, I'm actually going to sick the nobles on him, because the Red Duke only has 49 melee defense. We of course do have that anti-large bonus. He's going to take quite a beating here, despite the fact that he's providing melee attack debuff to these guys with Cloud of Flies. He's going to be forced to sort of retreat and make an ignominious retreat here. Despite casting Elves, he's actually forced to use it defensively, which is pretty sad. Unfortunately for me, though, you can see Techless just being pressured really hard and fleeing for dear life from the Banshee. You can see she's actually getting jabbed down pretty hard, though, by the Keepers of the Flame, who of course do apply that magic damage. In the meantime, the zombies continuing to pester my backline. Another breath attack, roasting some lions. But at this point, if we take an overarching look of the battlefield, you can see it's just a cluster. It's a mess. But essentially, my opponent busted my center, but I plugged it up with the Keepers of the Flame, and really the battlefield is essentially divided into 2 flanks. We've got this flank where the Swordmasters, the White Lions, the Spears, they're holding just barely. Then we've got this flank where it's essentially the Keepers of the Flame and the Spears keeping things tight. With finally the Swordmasters rallying, but Techless and the Goon Squad here still doing okay. Another Curse of Years goes down, debuffing this whole area, and it actually affects new units to enter, but you can see we do cast Flaming Sword of Ruin, and this Banshee's going to start dropping really quickly. She doesn't have very good melee defense. Techless, despite everything, can do some damage here, and she is going to be forced to flee, and you can see she almost dies there, really, to the Flaming Sword of Ruin, and before she manages to squeeze out of it. Once you squeeze out of the AoE, there's only so much damage we can do to her. And we're not going to be able to goon her out. The Invocation Neck is going to save the Banshee's bacon here, as are the zombies, but we do come close. My opponent is constantly trying to sort of tear out this front line, but things are really not looking great. Now, he will be able to deal with these White Lions, but despite that, his front line is slowly but surely just getting beaten down. It's that attrition game. The High Elves, if you're not able to nuke these Swordmasters units like that quickly, there's nothing you can do about it. You can see these archers continue to pester him with the 18 models. These archers over here, despite being really low, beaten down by zombies, they're still doing damage. And Swordmasters rallying. And you can see the balance of power is basically not shifted from the center. It's a tiny bit in my opponent's favor, probably because of the summons, but it keeps going back and forth. It's a very, very tight match. But if we do take a sort of overarching look, I do believe that at this point the match is already shifting in my favor. Now, my opponent has been reduced to a bunch of non-AP infantry. The Red Duke has taken a bit of a beating. My troops are not routing. You can see the Swordmasters here are decisively crumping these guys. They're going to destroy the Graveyard. They'll eliminate the Königstein Stalkers, and at that point my opponent's going to have nothing. These guys haven't even lost their martial mastery yet. They will shortly, or their martial prowess, but at that point it's going to be too little too late for these Graveguard. They finally did lose their martial prowess, but too little too late. Here, the Phoenix Guard holding their own against the Sternsmen. That fire damage on the explosion is probably doing a bit of damage to these guys who do have regen. You can see there, over there, these that guy exploded. Probably took a few Sternsmen there with him, or did at least some damage to him. Regardless, things are looking pretty good for the High Elf core, I think, despite what the bar says. You can see my opponent did essentially lose this flank. He's actually abandoning it with the Red Duke, not even trying to contest it. That means these white lines are going to rally. These white lines will come back. And we'll be able to start snowballing things. My opponent is pulling this whole blob of infantry over, but it's summoned zombies. It's a unit of spears. It's just not significant. These Keepers of the Flame are not going to rout some clown zombies and units like that. They'll hold to the bitter end. Now my opponent will get on top of my archers here, but I do hit him with an enfeebling foe, actually. I do actually cast a Flaming Sword of Ruin, because we were sniping at the Banshee a second ago, and we're actually going to dive on the Red Duke. Enfeebling foe, and Mintok does go down. You can see the Red Duke there getting sort of clobbered, but Teclis is forced to run away, Potion of Troy popping, and the Red Duke, though, getting beaten down despite Invocation of the Heck and all the survival abilities. It's just not going well. And you can see the nobles just laying this royal beating on this guy. And the archers continue to pester. They continue to pepper away. You can see it loses another couple hundred HP. And in the meantime, in the pits, you can see this flank is finally folded. And the balance of power at this point is shifting decisively in the High Elf's favor. My opponent is basically down to Stern's men and two units of two corpse guards, and then a bunch of summoned zombies. So once these units like the Grave Guard just go, they eventually will. You can see the Swordmasters here are going to get immediate rear charge. Once all of this falls apart, my opponent's days are essentially, or seconds are essentially numbered. Granted, there's a little bit of a terror out, but once again, the Keepers of the Flame are not going to terror out. They're not immune to psychology, but their leadership is so high. It's ridiculous. My opponent does get a nice little snipe. I got greedy, think I could get away with it here with Teclis, so my opponent actually snipes Teclis out. So greedy of me, really bad play. Honestly, if I'd played a little more conservatively, a little more cautiously, I could have pulled this off and kept him alive. It is what it is. At this point, it just doesn't matter because this line is done. Archers whittling these guys down. The noble is basically untouchable by zombies. I don't know if they'll get a hit every now and then. I mean, watch, he does take a little bit of damage, but it's just irrelevant. Swordmasters once again coming back. Stern's men, who have held for so long, they've hit their region cap. You can see just ludicrous. They've even held well against the Keepers of the Flame, but they will fall. At this point, my opponent's army is simply going to start disintegrating. You can see the Swordmasters there sweeping in. It doesn't matter that they're depleted. These Stern's men are going to go down. At this point, they're surrounded, so they're losing a lot of their powerful melee defense, and you can see this is just a total crumbling of the Vampire Count army. Even my opponent's Red Duke will shortly start collapsing. So, really fun game. You can see the zombies here. Slowly being mopped up. Actually, these archers did rout when my lord died, which is pretty kind of funny. But here we will be able to mop up the zombies. Last few going down, and that is going to be a game. So, a Pyrrhic victory for the High Elves, and definitely a very tight match. It kept going back and forth, the balance of power shifting back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes it's shifted in my opponent's favor, sometimes in mine. There were some mistakes made, I think, on both sides. My opponent, I think, made the bigger mistake, underestimating my magic damage or my magic potential damage with his Chillgeist. Lost essentially 1,600 gold right off the bat. I did lose some archers here and there, but really it didn't matter that much. Whereas the Chillgeist going down was brutal. They could have been a potentially big game changer in the late game had my opponent sort of just shut down my archers with zombie spam and units like that, then used the Chillgeist later to harass the Swordmasters and White Lions when Teclis wasn't ready with Flaming Sword of Ruin. I think that could have been really potent, really nasty, and would have been potentially a game changer. As for the rest of the match, I definitely think that there wasn't. I think that there were definitely some. Obviously, I lost Teclis for no good reason. I also took way too much damage on Teclis and the nobles for no good reason, pushing them into the front line, fighting in an area where I didn't have to be fighting. I could have easily fallen back and been just fine. These guys should have sort of been prowling and waiting for an opportunity to strike against either the Banshee or the Red Duke, and I didn't really do that. For my opponent, very good job shutting down my archers. Had they been able to fire, they would have probably annihilated the two Corpse Guards in the space of a few seconds. Probably within about a minute, I could have taken both Corpse Guards offline if my opponent had simply allowed my archers to keep shooting. But he was really good about summoning zombies constantly putting bats on them and dropping the Red Duke on them and sending a Banshee in to disrupt them. There's just so many disruptions. He used his Dire Pack really well to shut them down. Just really good play there, shutting down these archers with light armor repeatedly and really harassing me throughout that game. And they only really came online at like quarter strength at the very end of the match. Regardless, you can see that qualitative approach with tiles can work really well. If you can prevent sort of feared terror outs, you see the Swordmasters 244 kills, and a lot of these, a lot of it's chaff, but a lot of it's also Grave Guard, a lot of it's Stern's Men, it's some higher end infantry, and they're holding their own against this sort of mob of garbage. And that's really valuable. The Keepers of the Flame, 223 kills. Now, granted, yeah, a lot of this is garbage. Most of my opponent's money is wrapped up in the Red Duke and the Chill Guys, but still, they are holding their own. They're holding for an eternity, while I'm able to win and essentially my opponent isn't able to win through a sheer attrition grind fest in the front line. And despite all these sorts of buffs from the lodestones, and definitely both front lines were very expensive, but this sort of front line can hold. It can dumpster units like this very efficiently, and I was definitely pretty pleased. You can even see on the kill counts, really, it shows even the worst white line actually out-traded the Stearns men in kills. So definitely shows just how much they were able to do. The nobles, good stuff. Got a lot of kills. Teclis had terrible use of Fire Convocation. Had I been able to get that off, that could have roasted some of those supporting chaff units that were helping keep the Graveguard alive. And unfortunately, just went bonkers. I don't know what. It's a glitch. There's definitely a bug with wind spells right now, or at least Fire Convocation bound spells. And I think the Banishment bound spells, if they get interrupted in any way, you get these really odd moments where they just don't cast, and you have to wait for a cooldown, and then you lose both charges, or you lose the second charge, which is really stupid and really unfun. But regardless, good game to my opponent. 14th Shemina Vitrix Legion. Great sport. I had a lot of fun playing with him, actually. This was a really fun match. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe below if you haven't already. If you have any comments, any criticism, anything like that, as usual, be sure to post down in the comments. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. And I do my best to respond as fast as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.